Welcome to part 4 of the People of One Fire series on the petroglyphs of North Georgia. We'll first look at petroglyphs and caves. There have been numerous reports in North Georgia of petroglyphs, engraved stone tablets, and wall paintings underneath natural rock shelters or in man-made caves, which are probably royal tombs originally. However, most of these locations are off limits to the general public. The majority of the cave art seems to date from a later time period than the petroglyphic boulders along trade paths. However, the petroglyphs in the Judaculla Creek rock shelter do contain many elements which are found on the boulders at major intersections of Gold Belt trade paths. A Choctaw archaeologist was kind enough to loan us photographs of this shelter, which he is now studying. Its location is being maintained as a secret since it's in a national forest. This is the entrance. It has two components. On the right, you see a large boulder that creates an outdoor living room for the occupants of the cave. On the left are some of the petroglyphs carved into the bedrock on the side of the cave. Some of these elements are identical to the petroglyphic boulders in the valleys below. This, in fact, is found on the track rock boulder. However, there are other petroglyphs which seem to have been carved by different people. They're different style and are not as deeply carved, which are very different than what you normally see in the southern Appalachians. This is a high-resolution photograph from the inside of the cave. Here we see one element, which is a concentric Secre motif, but this area is very different than normally what you see. These are symbols that don't really appear anywhere else. This could either be an abstract human foot or a bare foot. Here's another view of it with an infrared camera. This portrays a woman walking with a bird man who's smoking a pipe. The smoke rises up and becomes either the sun or a sunflower. Here we have an abstract drawing of a raptor, either an eagle or a hawk. Until it reaches southwest metro Atlanta, the Chattahoochee River is a fast-moving mountain river. Archaeologist Robert Worship found that the upper Chattahoochee was almost continuously occupied by small, regularly spaced villages from around 1000 BT to the late 1600s, when there was a massive smallpox epidemic that wiped out much of the population. There are many archaeological sites along the Chattahoochee River. However, the one that's most interested us is located east of Roswell in the Morgan Falls area. It contains rock shelters, stone mounds, cairns, and terraces. It was explored by archaeologist Arthur Kelly in the 1950s. It has several components. On the left, we see a stone boat, typical of what you would see in southern Sweden, southern Norway, and eastern Denmark. This is very unusual for the southeast, but nevertheless it's there. It is definitely a stone burial monument that was excavated by a nationally respected archaeologist. The other component was what appeared to be a cave when they first looked at the vegetation. When they removed the vegetation, they found it was a cave shelter, and then the ruins of stone walls. Evidently, the occupants constructed buildings out from the cave. The general appearance would have been that of the pueblos in the southwestern United States. Kelly also described petroglyphs. He did not provide any high-resolution photographs. They were on the wall here. Here's another view, not very clear. Someone since that time has chipped the petroglyphs off the rocks. They're no longer visible. We now move to an Arawak shrine overlooking the Chattahoochee River near Six Flags Over Georgia. The location is along Sweetwater Creek, which is near a major industrial park now, but once you're inside of the area, you feel like you're in the mountains because of the steep decline in the slope of the creek. There are two sites containing stone architecture. One is a stone circle, the other is a more complex shrine. To the northwest are the ruins of Manchester, a large industrial town destroyed by Union troops in July of 1864. Just beyond it is a floodplain containing a proto-Creek town that was occupied for about 1,000 years. In 1909, Mr. W.H. Roberts was hunting wild turkeys along Sweetwater Creek in Douglas County, Georgia. He climbed up the ancient stone steps of a steep 100 feet high hill that was known to locals as the Indian Burial Ground. Native American artifacts were found in abundance on the hillside. At the top was an oval-shaped plaza or ball court defined by large stones, about 100 feet on its long axis. In the center was a 4-foot stone stela, or carved monument, laying on its side. The granite stela weighed over 600 pounds. Here it is as it looks like today. A few years later, Roberts gave the tab to the state of Georgia. The monument was eventually moved to the grounds of the Rhodes Mansion on Peachtree Street in Atlanta when it became the office of the Georgia Historical Commission. It remained exposed to the elements over 50 years. No Georgia art historian or archaeologist had any curiosity to study it. When Georgia Department of Archives and History moved to a marble tower near the state capitol, the Roberts petroglyph was sent to Columbus, Georgia Museum. There it stayed for another couple of decades before being put into storage and finally being placed on permanent display in a plexiglass case at Sweetwater Creek State Park. The current location is close to where it was originally found. It may be viewed at any time when the park is open to the public. We became very curious about this stela. It's a very different style we normally see in the United States. I sought the help of petroglyphic experts around the United States, but I got a response from the anthropology department from the University of Puerto Rico. It turns out this is a Zema, or a Taino demon spirit, very similar in style to what you see elsewhere in the Caribbean, which indicates that there were Arawaks in the area. Now we know this is Creeks. One of the divisions of the Creeks was Tawasi, who were Arawaks. Their language describes as a glossary. It is a mixture of Arawak and Creek in the 1700s, so one can imagine in earlier decades or centuries it was pure Arawak, but you can see the very strong similarity between these three drawings, petroglyphs. Here you see the dot on top. The face is the same. This one is carrying a snake. This one has two snakes on its side. There are circular objects around it, both places. This Zema is not as similar, but his body shape is the same. Here you see the Caguana ball courts in Utuado, Puerto Rico. It contains an oval ball court the same size as the one on Sweetwater Creek. Here it is on the left. It contains many Zemas whose styles are quite similar to the stela on Sweetwater Creek. Interesting enough, though, I ran across a photograph of a Ayo cave in Aruba, and it contains three symbols that also appear on the Judaculla Rock shelter. This is more evidence that Arawaks came in large numbers at some time in the past to the southeast. Next we move to the Kuchi Valley. We'll be talking much more about this site in part 6. Here, Robert Washup found a stela or a stone tablet immediately outside the entrance to the Ellen Adair tomb. In Square Gap, there's approximately 100 tombs here that were excavated from the side of the hill. We'll talk about this later, as I said, another program. It contains what appears to be the Creek writing system. We're not sure what it means. Some of these symbols are 1,000 years old, others are not. This is older, but on the right, it's obviously from the colonial period because you see the D, which appears to be symbolized Ellen Adair, A for Joyce Archer, two of the survivors of the Roanoke colony. I do not know what this symbol means. East of Jasper, Georgia, in the marble mining area, Robert Washup found a petroglyph that was very different than others. It appears to be a calendar. It has no similarity to the style of the boulders that are down along the trade paths, although it has some elements that we also find in Scandinavia. It appears to have been done by somebody else. An archaeologist who specializes in Itza Maya thinks it's an Itza Maya calendar. That's possible. You see the notches here that may indicate a sundial. On Shoal Creek, which is farther south, we have 3 panels that share similarity with some of the boulders, but then not. Actually, what it's most similar to is the new shipping site in Sweden, which dates from 2000 BC. It also contains a footprint, but also new shipping contains footprints. This is a very different style. It seems to be a writing system, but we're not certain of what it means. Back at the Sprayberry petroglyphs, we see more concentric circles that are identical to what one would find in northwestern Europe, but not in Scandinavia. Note the slash along here and here. This is a typical feature of Bronze Age petroglyphs in northwestern Europe, and also can be seen on some of the concentric circles at the Track Rock site. Next, we have the Judaculla, which is in North Carolina, a few miles north of the Georgia line. It's traditionally called a Cherokee petroglyph site. It is not. It was created long before the Cherokees arrived in the region. And here's proof. It is not a Cherokee word. It is the Anglicization of the Itza Creek word that in English would look like Sutakura, but they're pronounced Judaculla, because Muskogeans rolled the R's so hard that they were written down as A's. It means sky over Cura, Cura being a Gaelic word for spear people. They were an ethnic group in Ireland. Cura is yet another Gaelic ethnic name appearing in the Appalachians. What was going on back then? Here's another view of the Judaculla Rock by an artist. In this one you see that the artist intentionally left out the density of dots on the upper half of the monument. It's much clearer in the earlier ones that this is the sky and this is the land. These are symbols either of constellations or of provinces within western North Carolina, but this definitely represented the sky and the zodiacs. In part 5, we will compare the glyphs in Georgia to those in northwestern Europe.